just what a series. I mean, it was so the entertainment value. You know, what I mean, people were comparing it to 2005 before a ball had been bowled, and you're kind of thinking. I mean, I remember bits and pieces of that series. The first big home one I remember was 2009, and that was brilliant. But you watch 2005 back, and like that was just in terms of pure entertainment, it was just packed. And this one did give it a good run for its money because it was just every day and every ball just felt like something was going to happen. Obviously, we've talked about all the off-field stuff, all
Yeah.
the kind of the toing and throwing of all the kind of banter on and off the pitch, and the stuff with the stumping and the stuff with the stumps and the stark, possible catch, which wasn't a catch, and then you got Ben Stokes kind of dropping a catch in a celebration and all this, and it's just, you could talk for hours just about how good it was, but yeah, it was just an example of how you know Test cricket is alive and well, even if it is just when England are involved, because
And
some of the other
Australia. Yeah.
yeah, some of the other Test matches around the world have shown that you know.
Well, at the same
Mhm.
time as England were playing Australia, India were out in the Windies, and I don't know whether it's a topic for another day, but the hammerings that India were giving the West Indies were pretty brutal, and it was nice to have a contest, an actual contest where. And you were saying about you were right. Every day almost kind of went in peaks and troughs of who was on top. You know, of this championship, of this last just the last match of the series, we had England looking like they were going to cruise, and then all of a sudden Australia got really close towards. I think they only lost by about 40 odd runs in the end. Just proves that how close they got to chasing it down. You know, they had a fantastic day four. Then England come roaring back. We're not going to discuss the ball incident because obviously I think everyone can realize that something went dramatically wrong there. We're not going to
Mhm.
discuss it. That's another topic for another day. Yeah, it was really good, and I'm not. Yeah, sports commentators, sports journalists tend to get into this habit of saying it's the best thing since the last thing. It's the greatest series since the last series. This will be the one of all ages. And I'm nervous about using phrases like that, but I do think that this had so many moments and so much quality and so much anticipation, audience interest that yeah, it stands out as one of the best that I can say that I've watched and had some small part in.
Mhm.
Um, I was going to say something. It's completely gone. It can't have been that interesting. On yeah,
So yeah, obviously, we got that series has kind of been put into the history books now. We've now got 2.5 years until the next Ashes series, which is it's too long. But
I don't know what I'm going to do
if
with
we had
myself.
yeah, if we had them every other year, they'd lose their sparkle.
It's
Is
true.
my
That's
thoughts
true.
anyway.
That's true.
So a lot's been said about the players who have played their last Ashes cricket, and was having a look. If you look at the two 11s who played at the Oval, a lot of them will not be around
Mm.
when England travel to Australia in 2025, 26, and you look at the squads and they're going to look a hell of a lot different, even in the next 2.5, 3 years.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even still, with on that front as well, it could be 2 years, and there might be a few familiar faces, but then that could arguably their last Ashes series, and then in 2 years' time on top of that, so 4 years from now, the squads again could look remarkably different because there'll be
Mhm.
another wave of retirements, like people like Steve Smith, who arguably will play in 2 years' time. Is he going to be around in 4 years' time? Probably not. So yeah, I agree with you. The squads are going to look very different. Um, and they were discussing actually on day five on TMS. I think they had a bit of a discussion about who they think will be gone, who they think could be coming in. I don't know if you've had any discussions and thoughts on that front.
Yeah, I mean, I've just for sort of reference, I've got the two squads up here. I just want to start with the Australian lineup. I mean, we know David Warner. It's basically been almost basically everything short of being officially confirmed that he's going to finish this winter.
Hmm.
He's going to retire after I think it's after the Melbourne Boxing Day test, I believe.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so obviously, he's got another kind of a few test matches left. Khawaja, again, I don't think he'll be there for the next Ashes,
No,
personally.
he won't. He won't.
No,
Not in England anyway, for certain.
no. I think looking at the top five, you've got. I think the only player for the Aussies in that top five who might be there for both the next two Ashes is for me Labuschagne. Just looking at it because I think he's still got the years on his side for him to be around for those next two series.
He's 29, so yeah, Marnus will be
Yeah,
back.
yeah, he'll have one more Ashes in England as well as the next two and next home Ashes for them in Australia. Um, Working down, Mitchell Stark. I don't think he'll be around in 2.5 years. I'd love him to be as more of like a neutral because I love watching him bowl, not so much against England, but
I mean, it depends. It
I don't know.
depends. I'm just looking. I'm thinking of ages. I know fast bowlers have like a bit of a difference because of their knees and ankles and all sorts of things
Mhm.
like that. But he's 33, so he could be. The Australian one is a. Yeah, I think he'd like to think that he's gonna make it for the next Australian series. The next England one depends if he fancies being a Broady or a Jimmy and sticking it out. But um, I suppose he has different weights on his body because he bowls that 5-6 miles an hour more.
Yeah, it's whether he kind of he goes down the avenue of Stuart Broad because I know in Broad's in his retirement statement, I know he mentioned something about how he's finishing on the very top.
Yeah.
So I guess I can imagine for a lot of Australians, their ideal ending would be to beat England in Australia, which a lot of them have a good record of doing anyway. But then retiring after that, I think
Yeah.
that would be um, their example of finishing on the very top of retaining the Ashes again,
Does
beating England in Australia again.
Yeah, of course. Does Mitchell Stark plays T20s, doesn't he? Because another thing that
Mhm.
Jimmy and Broady did to lengthen their careers was to stop playing the white ball side, and you
Yeah.
wonder, I think the game has changed in those years since Broady and Jimmy retired from white ball. The game has changed where white ball is arguably the front and center of cricket now, and whether that means that their careers they won't go into like the late 30s and 40s, but they'll keep playing T20 and red ball, and playing more formats for longer, if you understand what I mean.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I think it all. Honestly, I think it probably all boils down to the fact of Stark could probably he'll have a good think, and he'll have to sort of weigh up like, can can his body take it? It'll be maybe okay for the next year, but like a bit further down the line, and also just like if he's enjoying it, I mean, maybe he might just love playing white ball stuff and red ball, and then he might be thinking, well, if I can just play all the cricket I can and then retire in 2 years, I'd rather do that than just play red ball and retire in four.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
maybe that's sort of the mindset he's having there. So I think, yeah, just going back to like how the Aussies are looking, sort of two, sort of 2.5 years in Australia. I think there'll be something. No, we know for a fact there's going to be some big names missing. Um, but at the same time, I mean, you can say the same for England. Obviously, we know Broad's not going to be there because obviously Broad's retired.
Yeah.
Surely, surely Jimmy's not going to be around
Yeah,
in 2.5 years.
as much as I'd like to think that he might be, I don't know. How old
I
how old's
don't
Mark
think.
Wood as well? Like that's a
Well, again, he's early 30s, as is Chris
30.
Wokes.
He's 33. So
Yeah,
I think Woods more than anyone, could his body keep up with it? And
yeah.
yeah,
I can see Wood again if if he keeps himself fit. I can see him being in contention for 25, 26, but I can't see if he had the fitness record of Broad Anderson, I could see him playing the Ashes here in 4 years' time. But
yeah,
I just can't see it, to be honest. As much as it
yeah.
would be brilliant, because I love Mark Wood, I just
I
can't
think
see it, to be honest.
I do think that's another reason for why this series has got such a big, you know, and will live long in lots of memories. This is the last time that lots of people will be seeing so many Australians on our shores, and lots of English people playing Ashes cricket for the last time. You know, that's I do think that's another reason why it was so special.